There is going to be a slight trigger warning for this video. I am going to be talking about Mother's Day and moms. So if those are things that bother you, I'll see you next time. So this is actually the first video I'm recording, but not the first video on the channel, which makes it a little confusing. I had to record this one first because it was the project I was working on at the time. So if I wanted any footage of like what I was working on, I had to film this one first. So, this one's exciting too because it is my first custom knit. So I, being a very new beginner, decided to make my own pattern for this because I couldn't find what I wanted online. I found some similar stuff, but nothing that like I thought was really special for this. So, I am making my mom a Disney / Mickey Mouse themed or inspired bandana. My parents aren't really what I would call Disney adults, but we all do enjoy a lot of Disney stuff. And my mom does have a special place in her heart for Magic Kingdom, and so I decided to make this. It was because when Joann's was closing, which it did as I was beginning to knit, so that was unfortunate, but I found these Disney Mickey Mouse buttons that were kind of like a rose gold at Joann's, and I bought them because I figured I could do something for my mom eventually based on these, and when I was trying to decide what to do for Mother's Day, I remembered that I bought them and I wanted to do something special with them. So that's what I did, and I went to a local yarn store to try to find a yarn that I thought would match it. So I could have done like red or black or like, you know, Mickey's more signature colors, but it didn't really match the rose gold buttons, and I wanted it to kind of like have a little bit more of an elegant look, I guess, because at the time I was going for a shawl. But this is the yarn I ended up picking, and it is a Barocco yarn. I believe it's Iris. I'll find out for sure. But it's cotton and bamboo, so it's very soft and very comfortable. And so my mom's not like a big blue fan, but it goes really well with the rose gold. And oh, it is Barocco Iris. And the color is beachside. And my mom does love the beach, so it works out after all. But I decided to go with a bandana because my mom is not a shawl person. I don't know when the last time I saw her wearing one was, and it's usually for very like formal dressed up events. Like I don't think she'd wear one, especially not to Disney. And I figured I wanted her to be able to wear this to Disney if she ever got the chance to go. So I do see her wearing like headbands or bandanas more often than I see her wearing shawls. So yeah, that's what it's gonna be. But it could easily be a shawl. I'm making it in the same like triangle shape that I would make a shawl. So I worked out the pattern yesterday with a lot of math and a lot of testing. Started out with like a basic lace pattern, which was like a yarn over and then kind of knit it together to make circles. But the problem with that is that like you couldn't really do a Mickey face in it. So I did a lot of testing and I found a pattern that works, and then it was just a matter of doing math to make sure that they all kind of lined up. So I'll talk about more about that process while you watch me knit.
So as you can see, I was kind of just restarting this a few different times. I tried a couple different size needles and eventually settled on a size 9 circular needle. And that was because like this thread was a little bit different than the yarn I had been testing on to just get a hang of the pattern. Which it ended up working out, honestly. I needed to figure out how the pattern looked in normal yarn, and then I kind of figured out how it looked in this yarn. So this is just the process of me figuring that out, which is why it sped up so much. Um, and I'm not going to show you all of it because it ended up being like 45 minutes of me just like restarting this a couple times. Um, but I worked out the pattern first by just figuring out what the repeat was to make the Mickey face. That ended up being about a 4-row repeat. And then I figured out that how to like offset them. So that's technically an 8-row repeat because the Mickeys are offset. um but yeah, this is just me kind of figuring that out, and I eventually do. So as you can see, I have a very helpful boy. It's not very helpful, but I worked out the kinks and I have a little bit more progress. You can see where the Mickey face is going to be. And you can see the start of where the holes are for the next one. So I'm gonna take a quick break now that the kinks are worked out and my cat won't eat it, hopefully. And then I'm gonna try to work on this some more tonight. I might not film all of it, but yeah, I'm gonna try to work on it some more. And I'll check back in once I have made more progress. I have an update. I finished as far as I wrote the pattern. And we're looking pretty good. This is the progress. And you can see that even without blocking, the Mickey in the middle is pretty much what I want. I have some thoughts about the holes in the side that are, I think, being caused by where I'm doing the increases at the end of a row. And I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about that yet, because there's some places where you have to increase at the very end to keep the pattern consistent, and without doing it in the yarn over. So I don't know. There's a chance that I'll go back and make a second one of these. I have enough yarn to make at least 2. But I'm tired and I don't want to do more math to figure out the pattern from here. So, we're going to do that tomorrow. It has been like 24 hours maybe since I last filmed. I'm gonna get started working on the math again.
I just saw the Revenge of the Sith re-release. It was magical. I'm gonna put on some Star Wars on the TV and figure out math. Because that's what knitting is, as I recently discovered. Okay, so, it's not that long later. I have gotten some progress made. I kind of held it up to my own head. And I don't really think it needs to be much wider, but I think it does need to be longer to make it, like, a proper headband. I think you could make it more, like, even if you didn't increase, like, every other row like I did if you skip some. But I think, if you don't, I don't like how the pattern looks. So, I think it'll be fine for it to be kind of, like, not completely triangle shaped, I guess. So I'm basically just gonna make it longer. I could stop now. When it's stretched out, it looks closer to bandana size or headband size, whatever. But I do want it to go a little further back on the head, so I'm gonna make it a couple inches longer, and I'm gonna bind it off and see what happens. Luckily, without increasing, the math doesn't really get much harder. So the hard part is over, and I'm gonna continue my Star Wars marathon and finish this off.
So I don't really have too much to say about the pattern other than that if you want the exact pattern, I am uploading a free PDF file to Ravelry, and the link will be in the description down below. I really liked how this turned out. I thought it actually looked really cool at the end, and I'm pretty proud of it for being my first pattern. I think there's some kinks I could have worked out. I think the actual, like, headband slash strap could have been better. But I like it, and I actually think it looks pretty nice. And I hope my mom liked it. In the meantime, I promise you a story every video, and it's gonna be a little bit non-traditional with this one. I'm just kind of gonna talk about my experience with my mom at Disney because I thought that was appropriate. And I'm gonna preface this by saying that part of the reason I ended up going with this yarn, especially this color, is because it does look Cinderella like. And when I was little, my favorite princess was Cinderella, and my mom is absolutely obsessed with Cinderella's castle. So that's kind of where this came from. I will be telling you a little bit more about that experience as I continue to knit. One of the earliest vacations I remember is actually going to Disney World in Florida with my parents and grandparents. We went when I was close to kindergarten age, and I mostly remember my dad sort of dragging us around because we were on a tight schedule. We didn't get to go again for quite a long time. I had graduated high school and was in my first year of undergrad the next time we went. And that's really when I noticed just how magical it was for my mom. We got a day at each park, and we had fast passes, so if one park closed early, we went to the one that was still open. The last day, I'm not sure where we had been earlier, but we ended the day at Magic Kingdom, and we stayed until like 2 a.m. Mainly because that's how late the park was open, and we were stubbornly getting our money's worth. I don't remember much about that night beyond just trying to stay awake, but I do remember my mom's giddy joy at going on the Peter Pan's flight one last time, and I remember just how hard it was for her to leave at the end. We were bone tired and ready to collapse, but she stood at the end of Main Street just looking at Cinderella's castle for a really long time. She was smiling and a little teary-eyed, and my mom being emotional makes me emotional, so we had an emotional, beautiful little moment, and I know that she was wondering if she'd ever get to see it again. But as it turned out, she did. We went to Disney World again last spring, and unlike before, we were not really staying at the park from open to close because, well, we were 10 years older. But it was a really special time. My mom and I got to ride all our favorite rides together. My favorite to ride with her on is the Tower of Terror because every time she rides it, she screams and then starts laughing, and it's incredibly infectious. She absolutely loved the Rise of the Resistance, and we rode that ride together 3 times, despite how often it gets shut down. She's also the one who stayed at the park with me on that last night when we were in Hollywood Studios, just so we could see the light show together. However, at Magic Kingdom we got to ride Peter Pan together again, and she got to see the fireworks above the castle, and it was, again, difficult to get her out of the park. But it wasn't the last time we saw it. At Christmas, by sheer chance, we were in Orlando as we were traveling to our actual family Christmas vacation, and we got to go to Magic Kingdom for the Mickey's Merry Christmas event. I don't know if I've ever seen my mom that happy. It combined 2 of her absolute favorite things, that being Christmas and the park. She got to ride her favorite rides, and the Christmas fireworks were really special. And if dragging her out of the park was hard before, well, add in some snow falling down on Main Street with the holiday music in the background, and it was basically impossible. It's something I'll always remember about her, and no matter what happens, I'll always be able to associate that magical Magic Kingdom with my mom's infectious joy. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. This is the final product. You can see the little Mickey faces. I think it turned out pretty good. The center row especially, I really like. I did end up doing 2 extra rows on top, mainly because this final row, the rest of the pattern kind of depends on the next few rows to like tighten up the little ears. So I did 2 rows and then I did the 4 for the headband. So what I'm gonna do, shorter. But yeah, I'm gonna go block it. Hey, so I'm back. I was lied to about the date that Mother's Day occurred on. So this is coming a little later than I thought it would.
but the blocking turned out beautiful. Look at those little Mickey Mouse faces. I love it so much. So now I just need to add like a strap so that this will stay on my mother's head. I'm going to sorry, my cat's messing with everything. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to sew 2 buttons onto each side, along with a strap that I'm about to knit. So I think it should end up being, like, the buttons will actually serve somewhat of a function. I was gonna add a piece of like embroidery thread that matched the buttons, but I couldn't really find any that I owned already. So we're not gonna do that. But I think it would look really cute if you did. So what I've decided to do for this strap is I think I'm gonna try knitting it 3 across, and I think I'm gonna do it from the short side, because that'll give me a little bit more flexibility with the length, and I can always add on length later. So I'm actually gonna downsize. I'm gonna use a size 7 needle to make the strap tighter, because I don't want it as loose as the rest of this was. And we're gonna go from there. So I'll see you in a second. So it's all done, and I think it's pretty cute. We'll see what my mom thinks of it soon. If I get her reaction, I'll be sure to share it in some other format, or maybe with next week's video. I hope you enjoyed my stories about my mom and me at Disney, and I hope you have a great Mother's Day.